She thought it was just another flight, another day where the world reminded her she didn't belong. A white woman slid into his seat, bold, entitled, certain he wouldn't dare challenge her. After all, who would believe a black man over her? But what she didn't know was that the man she brushed aside wasn't just another passenger, he was the one who signed the paychecks, the one who owned the very airline she sat on. What happens when arrogance collides with hidden power? And how far can privilege go before truth takes the final seat? Marcus Daniels wasn't just a man of success, he was a man who had built his empire from the ground up. Raised in a neighborhood where opportunity was scarce and expectations were low, he had learned early that every step forward would be twice as hard for him. Yet, through relentless determination, long nights, and the refusal to let society define his worth, Marcus climbed higher than anyone expected. Today, he stood at the helm of a global airline, shaping the skies millions traveled every day. Still, despite all his accomplishments, Marcus carried the quiet weight of knowing that respect wasn't always granted with wealth or titles. Too often, he had seen strangers' eyes narrow before hearing his name, assumptions forming faster than truths could be spoken. On most days, he brushed it off, choosing dignity over confrontation. But beneath his calm exterior, he never forgot the sting of being underestimated. That morning, boarding his own aircraft as just another passenger, Marcus sought nothing more than peace, a moment away from constant meetings and endless demands. He wanted to disappear into the anonymity of the crowd, to enjoy the simple comfort of travel. Yet, life had a way of reminding him that for men like him, anonymity was a luxury rarely given. Because before the plane even left the runway, one entitled choice from a stranger would ignite a storm, one that revealed not only the ugly face of prejudice but also the hidden truth of who Marcus really was. The boarding area buzzed with the usual chaos, families juggling bags, business travelers glued to their phones, flight attendants guiding the flow. Marcus moved quietly through it all, dressed simply, nothing that screamed of wealth or power. He liked it that way. To them, he was just another man in line. When the gate doors opened, he stepped aboard, nodding politely at the crew. He had chosen a first-class seat, not for luxury, but for space and quiet. As he approached his row, a woman already sat there, her handbag sprawled across his armrest as though marking territory. She didn't look up until he stopped beside her. For a moment, her eyes flicked to his ticket, then back to him. A sharp, dismissive smile curved her lips. Without hesitation, she adjusted her seatbelt and leaned back as though his presence were nothing more than an inconvenience. "This is my seat," she said coolly, before he could even speak. Marcus showed her his boarding pass, calm, direct, irrefutable. But she didn't so much as glance at it. "I don't think so," she replied, her voice loud enough to draw nearby stares. Within seconds, a flight attendant hurried over, sensing tension. The woman's tone sharpened. "He's mistaken. This is clearly mine." Her words dripped with certainty, the kind that dared anyone to challenge her. The attendant, caught in the uncomfortable space between passengers, checked the manifest, hesitating as the woman's glare pressed like a blade. Whispers began to ripple through the cabin. Some passengers looked away, pretending not to notice. Others exchanged uneasy glances, as if watching a scene they had seen too many times before. The air grew heavier, suffocating in its silence. Marcus remained composed, his posture calm, though inside he felt the old burn, the sting of assumptions, the weight of eyes that judged without knowing. The attendant cleared her throat, confirming the truth. "Sir is correct. This is his assigned seat." But the woman didn't move. She folded her arms, feigning innocence, her voice tightening with false outrage. "You're seriously telling me you're giving my seat away? This is ridiculous." Tension crackled. Marcus could feel it, every eye on him, waiting, measuring his response. He had lived this moment in different forms all his life, the quiet question of whether to endure in silence or assert his dignity in a world that often punished him for it. And still, the woman refused to rise. She leaned forward, demanding the supervisor be called, her voice cutting through the cabin like a blade. Some passengers shook their heads. Others smirked knowingly. The scene stretched long, unrelenting, until the captain himself was informed. Marcus remained silent, his face unreadable, as the murmurs grew. To many, he was just another black man being challenged, being doubted, being forced to prove what was already his. But what no one realized, not the woman, not the crew, not the passengers who silently judged, was that Marcus held the kind of power that could silence the entire plane with a single word. And when the truth came out, it would land harder than any turbulence ever could. The tension snapped like a live wire when the supervisor arrived. The woman's voice rose higher, sharp and trembling with indignation. This is outrageous. I paid for this seat. How dare you even question me? Her accusations pierced the cabin, each word coated in the venom of entitlement. Marcus sat still, shoulders squared, heart pounding steady but heavy. The supervisor double-checked the manifest. The truth was undeniable. Yet the woman's refusal to move dragged the moment into something uglier, something more than a dispute over a chair. It had become a performance of superiority, a declaration that his presence did not belong. Passengers shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away, desperate to detach themselves from the ugliness unraveling in front of them. But Marcus felt the invisible chain tightening, the centuries of history pressing on his chest. Every second she refused was another reminder. No matter his accomplishments, to some, he would always be less. Finally, the supervisor cleared his throat, voice clipped. If you cannot take your assigned seat, you will need to exit the plane. Gasps cut through the cabin. Her face flushed crimson. You'll regret this, she spat, eyes narrowing at Marcus as though he had wronged her. Slowly, reluctantly, she gathered her things and stormed out, the echo of her anger trailing behind. Silence swallowed the space she left. All eyes turned back to Marcus, expecting shame, expecting defeat. Instead, he rose to his feet. His voice, calm yet commanding, carried through the cabin. You all deserve to know something, he said, holding their gaze with quiet strength. This isn't just any seat. This isn't just any flight. He paused, letting the weight of anticipation settle. Because I don't just fly this airline. I own it. The cabin froze. Mouths fell open. In one breath, the narrative flipped, and the power she had wielded with arrogance was shattered by truth. The air in the cabin was thick with silence after Marcus's words. Some passengers looked down, ashamed. Others studied him with a mix of shock and awe, as though seeing him for the first time. The very man who had been treated as invisible now stood revealed as the one holding the power they had all underestimated. Yet Marcus didn't smile. There was no satisfaction in exposing her ignorance, no victory in proving himself to strangers. Because the truth lingered, if he had been anyone else, without the title, without the empire, without the weight of power behind his name, the outcome might have been very different. He reclaimed his seat, not as a show of dominance, but as a quiet act of defiance against a world still too quick to strip dignity from those who look like him. Around him, the plane returned to motion, but the tension never fully lifted. For some, the moment was already forgotten. For others, it was a reminder they couldn't ignore. And that is the tragedy of it all. Success shouldn't be the shield that demands respect. Humanity should. But too often, it isn't. Too often, it takes wealth, status, or unimaginable achievement just to be treated with the basic decency every person deserves. Marcus knew this fight was bigger than him. He had won his battle in that moment, but the war, against prejudice, against silent complicity, against the countless indignities faced daily by those with less power, still raged on. So the question is not whether Marcus was vindicated. The question is, how many others will never have the chance to prove themselves before they are dismissed, ignored, or erased? And when we witness it, will we stay silent, or finally choose to stand?